The topic of today, which I would like to discuss with you, it's something like we call here in Mambu a journey, which we started last year, and we are progressing from one single cloud vendor, which we had before, and still using it and running the major systems there, to the multi-cloud platform. So what we can adopt different cloud vendors and utilize and provide those services to our customers, business customers, yeah, and the end users who are using the services. So let's begin. Agenda. First, I'm going to do a short intro on who we are basically from the Mambu side, yeah, what teams we have, so you can have a better understanding actually how many teams are involved into the product delivery, what products we have, and basically how we can achieve the multi-cloud implementation, yeah, and building that product like a platform which we have. So next will be the what and what is a multi-cloud in general. So to get some baseline, let's say, for everybody who is going to watch this this presentation and who is watching right now in live. So to continue, we need to have a baseline, an agreement between what we call multi, hybrid, single cloud, and whatever. Yeah. Why? It's the major topic probably on why we need a multi-cloud. So again, we'll get into the platform, into the specifics which we have, and we'll try to share the challenges we basically have with a single cloud and why we need that multi-cloud. And how? So I will go through on what we did for the past 8 months, what we found, what issues we had, and so those bumps on the road, how presentation is called. All right, so let's progress. By the way, yeah, hi, my name is Martynas. I am from Lithuania, principal engineer right now at Mambu, principal engineer in the platform tribe. So for the past more than 10 years, working in the financial organizations, banks, providing the internal services like building the internal clouds, building automations, management portals, whatever, how we call it. But those things which are used by developers to run the stuff, do a development, do a testing, release to production as soon as possible. Yeah. So right now I am in Mambu and building the platform itself. So with a big team, let's say, of engineers. Yeah. Okay. So at first, what is Mambu? So I expect everybody knows it. So it's a company who provides a true SaaS banking platform, yeah, and we provide it on the public cloud, and we provide it as a service to the companies. We started at 11 years ago, let's say, yeah, and right now we have more than 500 people around the globe who is providing Mambu services in 11 locations. So basically, from the Sydney to Los Angeles, let's say, yeah. Good. Product organization in Mambu is like more than 180 developers who are creating the business products, who are delivering those business features to the end customers. Those are mainly located in Iași. It's a major branch for us. Berlin is another one, and Vilnius is like now gaining also a productivity, getting more people onboarded, and basically we are going to help to Mambu team to provide those services. Yeah. And we have more than 50 service reliability engineers. So those are distributed, I would say, around the globe, as you see from the list of locations, like in Iași, in Amsterdam, in Vilnius, Singapore, and Miami. So we have those everywhere. Yeah. And those are guys who are actually providing the platform itself. So the guys who are monitoring the health of the services, the guys who are distributing new workloads, the guys who are building the platform and doing engineering of it. Yeah. From the business side, we have more than 200 of the customers, more than 41 million of end customers. So this is the number of customers Mambu using the backend system of the Mambu, yeah, through the business. And we basically are around the globe. So in EMEA, in North America, Latin America, and Asia Pacific. Okay, so now about the clouds. Mambu started with AWS, and AWS, we have the biggest deployments on the AWS right now. But last year, we started adoption of the Google and Azure. You probably will ask why, so the presentation will tell you about this. Okay, so what is a multi-cloud? This is a generally very interesting topic. So let's start from the first one, from the single cloud. So for the single cloud, we can call any cloud which is available like on premise, in data centers, or in the public cloud. So if we are using one cloud vendor, we are integrated with the system, we are fully utilizing managed services. So this is the single cloud version. If you're talking about internal clouds, so like building on OpenStack, building on VMware, yeah, it was a long time ago for me in big enterprises. That was really fun and enjoyable time. Okay, so the hybrid cloud. This is something which is interesting, and it's kind of something what we already do here in Mambu. Yeah. So internal and public cloud integration. So stretching the network from data center to the public cloud, building and running services in the public cloud, but still utilizing just, I would say, one cloud vendor, and just maybe for the specific needs. Like if you want to have a bursting, yeah, so have development environments and you do not have space in your data center, you can do an extension and you can have it. You can have disaster recovery sites, copying data or replicating data from your data center, which is a production one, to the standby, which is on the cloud vendor. So this is kind of a description of the hybrid cloud. Okay, so for the hybrid cloud, we have some solutions on the market. Yeah, those like AWS Outpost, where you get a full stack or full rack of the equipment from AWS. It integrates to the general services of AWS, and you have access to some particular services which are provided on the Outpost. Yeah, like storage, like compute, and these are the things. I would say it's a primitive services which are available. The same is basically on the Azure stack. The use cases, it's if you still are happy with one cloud vendor and you need to extend their services into your local data center, that's a way to go. Maybe some time for a migration periods when you would like to migrate everything to the public cloud, but you still want to have for a migration period infrastructure, which will help you to do this. So maybe that's a way to go. The problems which I see, and yeah, basically I would like to share with you, it requires upfront investment. Yeah, so you cannot have that scalable and elastic environments, on-demand environment. This is one of the things. Another thing, it basically lacks features from the public cloud vendor side. Yeah, so if you get all the bucket of 170 or 200 products and features on the public cloud, so on that minimal version which you get in your data center, these are the primitives, the few ones where you can run your basically classic applications on top of it. And it lacks of updates. So if the new features are released into the public cloud sites, so those are replicated to the local ones just in some period of time. And especially if you think about some critical features which you would like to utilize, you need to wait while those will be distributed to the Azure stack, let's say, or Outpost. And we are getting to the multi-cloud. So if we are talking multi-cloud, that means you are using your internal data center, you have your own cloud like OpenStack or whatever, you have one public cloud and you have another public cloud, and you want to have a solution to manage everything and have a control on all the infrastructure and all the services you have there. One of the ways of having a real multi-cloud, and if your business requires some specific services like analytics and something else, which is not available in one of the cloud vendors, yeah, or either one of the cloud vendors does it better than another one. So why not to integrate and why not to start using it? And this is the full thing about the multi-cloud. Yeah. Or there is another way when you need to be on different locations, for example, and you need to provide some services there, and some of the service vendor or service provider doesn't exist in that specific region. And you start thinking, okay, how I can build some systems which I can distribute and have it in the same way deployed in all the clouds. Yeah, and this is where multi-cloud comes as an idea. So you have portable applications, you can run it everywhere, or you can utilize some of the services. Why it's perfect? Because people talking about like vendor lock-in, for example. Yeah, but it's something what everybody is discussing, but it's very difficult to measure. So measure from the cost perspective. So vendor lock-in, sometimes it's a benefit. You can stick to the services which provided by the specific cloud vendor, and you can utilize full stack of those services because you get integrations, everything simply works, you have a full support, you have a roadmap, so everything is there. Yeah? So vendor lock-in is not bad. Okay, so why multi-cloud? Why we need that effort to bring and do those integrations and to have multi-cloud for Mambu and others, how they are searching for some specific solutions. So the main use cases which I see, it's basically availability of some specific regions, what I already mentioned. Yeah? If you need to run, for example, in Saudi Arabia, you don't have a choice. There is only one public cloud vendor there. If you want to run in like Indonesia, you have, again, to review what's there, and you will see what not so many cloud vendors are there. Yeah. If you're talking about the biggest regions, so usually all the cloud vendors are there, so you can select very easily. There is a compliance and operational requirement. So compliance says, for example, you need to perform a disaster recovery, and performing disaster recovery in the same region, you have no possibility to do with a cloud vendor specific solutions. So you need to do a disaster recovery between the cloud vendors, and that's becoming a multi-cloud. Yeah. Data residency, it's also one of the questions. Like there are countries who does not allow to get data from the region, and that's becoming an issue again. You need to think how to replicate data to another cloud vendor, maybe, or do something else. Yeah, there. And availability of specific services. So like with the regions, you can miss some of the services in some specific regions, in some specific cloud vendors, because as you know, cloud vendors usually invest in the most critical regions, while those less used regions, let's say, have less or just a minimal set of services there. So you need to think about that as well. Yeah, and the vendor lock-in. Why if it's possible to have a portable application, portable data, why not? Or the use case with a multi-cloud simply works for you, why not to have it, an advantage of vendor lock-in here as well. Yeah. Okay, so a little bit context here, and I am switching like there are two big things while talking about the multi-cloud and implementation of it. So one thing, it's when you are like a SaaS provider, where you need a multi-tenancy, you need to create kind of the same services on different cloud vendors, but basically what you're doing is you are cloning the same solution everywhere. So you need to ensure all the services which you need basically exist everywhere. Yeah. And another part, it's internal IT. So like internal IT, it's a standard one company need. So when company has a need to go to different region and provide services there. So maybe they need to do that via the multi-cloud solution, or they need some specific services which doesn't exist in other cloud vendors. So you just interconnect everything, and you have some of the services available there. So the use cases are pretty different. So let's go next. Yeah, and what we see, solutions. So we can go into the managed services, what we all like to do, like without supporting your own infrastructure, without supporting your stuff, you just simply utilize managed services which are provided by cloud vendor. Yeah. Other piece for the multi-cloud, you can utilize self-hosted services. And self-hosted, it's a hard way. So I would say it's a going via the hard way, but it brings some benefits. And so Mambu, we are using like a mix of managed services and the self-hosted services. So we will discuss it in a minute. The risks, which are very interesting to share, and which I see, and what we found as a company going through the multi-cloud journey. So the list of services which are critical for the business, for our developers to build their services, is not equal to all the cloud vendors. Yeah, like Kafka and Elasticsearch, for example, Google Azure doesn't provide those kind of services for us, which are the key services for our business. While AWS or Ali Cloud provides those. So how we can scale to multiple cloud vendors when not all of the services are available there. The problem is that when you start running some of the services by yourself, it brings an issue, operational issue, and it requires additional effort. It requires skill sets to run and support those products. So that's becoming a challenge. Yeah, how you integrate, how you do identity and access management, and these pieces becomes very, very interesting. Next thing, it's a versions of the services. So if you talk about the standard version of a service, let's say databases or MySQL, for example, yeah, you need to be sure that the versions of the databases are the same across all the cloud vendors and the services. In our case, you need to be ready for some incompatibilities. Of course, you can test everything before releasing, but sometimes you get those paired issues which you cannot identify easily, and it happens later on after the release. And at the later time, you find what it has some issues with a specific version. So difference of the versions, it's a risk. Next thing, it's a security fixes and how those fixes are released. So we know that every cloud vendor wants to release the security fixes as soon as possible, and we do that. Problem is when you have multiple cloud vendors, you need to collect information and to have some control around it. So when it will be released in one cloud vendor, when I'm going to patch the systems, what versions of fixes are released, what's happening. So getting into control of all the system, it's becoming a headache. And the features of the services. So if you're talking about the primitives, like virtual machines, like Kubernetes, like databases, so basically getting MySQL, it's basically kind of the same between all the cloud vendors. But if you are talking about the some specific features, which usually are required for a second day operations, as we call, yeah. So like I need encryption, how encryption will be implemented in all cloud vendors, encryption at rest, encryption in transit, yeah. How we replicate data, can I have a multi-AZ deployment, yeah, to have a highly available system? Is it going to be highly available in the same way with the same number of nines? It's a big question. Can we have a snapshots and so on and so on? For example, for S3 buckets in AWS, you have a bunch of services and bunch of features which are enabled. If you stick to it, other cloud vendors could potentially provide something different. So be ready to tackle with it. Lifecycle. So every cloud vendor provides a different lifecycle process, and you need to adopt to it. So if you're running one application, maybe it's fine. If you're running hundreds of applications, it could be our systems, it could be an issue. Yeah. And the regions. So as mentioned a few minutes ago, some of the regions do not have a full set of the features, and those are released incrementally, starting from the major regions, going to the least or small regions, let's say, yeah. And the last piece, which is interesting, is application integration. So if you have a bunch of applications, bunch of services, and bunch of development teams who are doing the development, so how you're going to ask them to integrate services to all different cloud vendors, like the same S3 buckets. We need to store data in S3 buckets. We need not only to store, but do something else, yeah, like enable, disable versioning, manage versioning, or whatever do, which is additional features. And that's becoming an issue. So developers need to integrate, to validate, to test, and continue supporting all the clouds. Yeah, so that's an issue. There are different proxies or other technologies which allow you to have a wrapper which implements one, and you can distribute between different clouds. But it's not the case. It still requires additional effort to run and support. Yeah. And we have the risks for the self-hosted. So self-hosted is not a silver bullet. It's a different solution. It requires a different way of working and doing stuff. So first thing, it's engineering team growth. So if you want to have self-hosted solutions, self-hosted services, you need to have an engineering team to support it. Yeah. And getting people onboarded, it takes time. Skill sets of engineers, it's also a challenge. So these pieces are critical ones to building and supporting the service. Yeah. And upfront investment, this is also a critical piece. So for cloud vendors, you just can use everything on demand. If you try it and it works, you stabilize your workloads, you can get in reservations to get the discounts and all the pieces. But when we starting with technologies which allows us to manage multiple clouds, multiple solutions, have some central consoles and management spaces, that is an investment, and that's not an easy task for a company to manage that. Few things left, so slowing development, and this is a critical piece. So when you start developing your infrastructure, those platform as a service solutions for developers to utilize, it's becomes difficult to predict the new product release, the demands. So all the pieces you need to manage, you need to track. And usually it's becoming a question, do we want to become a IaaS or PaaS company within the company? Because our main target, our main goal is to provide the business services, not the infrastructure itself. Yeah. So this is a critical thing to understand and before progressing with the multi-cloud and self-hosted services. Okay, so how we do that? Yeah. So just before we will get into how Mambu is doing that, yeah, so I would like to discuss something what's a hard topic. Nobody wants to discuss it, and you will not usually find that on the internet, yeah, because or some messages going around saying what, okay, yes, compute. We provide a support for compute. We provide some unification and multi-cloud solutions. We integrate with multiple Kubernetes clusters. You will get unified view policies, everything there. Yeah. But nobody talks about the data. Nobody talks about the biggest part of the iceberg. Yeah. And nobody talks about the infrastructure, other infrastructure surrounding the compute. So the critical one, which is data, and everybody start talking about the data gravity, and it has locality, you cannot easily migrate that. Replication also takes some time, increases the latency, which nobody wants to afford, and that's a difficult piece. Maybe that's because nobody wants to speak about. Yeah. Policies, compliance stuff, security, and all the pieces. Again, this is a thing for the big companies who has thousands of systems distributed between many cloud vendors. Yeah. And especially the SaaS providers like Mambu, we have that issue. So we want to unify somehow management of the platform. As an example, with management of compute, management of the Kubernetes, and like Azure Arc, AWS is building the service which is called EKS Anywhere. It's in preview right now, so it should be available sometime this year. Google Anthos is also one of the solutions which can manage multiple of your Kubernetes clusters, integrate with the management console of Google Cloud. So you can have a unified view. You can have a distribution of the policies, do deployments, see what's happening around monitoring. So it's great, but it's not about data. It's just about the compute itself. Yeah. So it's just a small piece of the bunch stuff which we usually deploy and distribute to the public clouds. Okay, so platform management. So in short, let's say on very, very high view, how Mambu platform looks like. So imagine we have a VPC, we have a Kubernetes, we have a stateless services deployed on the Kubernetes cluster, and we have a bunch of managed services, which basically is the standard one, I believe majority of companies are using for their products, like databases, cache, streams, Kafka, or something else, search queues and object store. It's kind of example of a standard stack here. We expose our services through the ELB to the customer. In this case, like on the picture, we have an external customer who is having the front end in the data center, and the Mambu is providing a backend APIs. Yeah, so we just provide backend on our side. And so basically that's a standard thing. Do we have difficulties managing it? No. And now environments. This comes into the picture. Yeah. So if we have few hundred customers, every customer gets a sandbox and live environments. Both are production ones. So those are splitted. Yeah. Those are having different environments, different Kubernetes clusters, as we have an isolation requirements. Yeah. And also, it becomes difficult to manage those hundreds and hundreds of Kubernetes clusters. Yeah. And we provide a multi-tenant solutions. We provide a dedicated environments or even isolated. Yeah, it depends on the customer needs, and especially those big customers, financial customers, they want to have full isolation. Ones are required by regulatory. Financial regulatory, who wants to be sure that they have a full control of the stuff. In other case, somebody just has enough for the dedicated environments, like isolated via VPC. Yeah. So basically, as our customers, financial organizations, and the services we provide are banking system, let's say. Yeah. So we need to be sure that it's highly reliable. So we need to distribute it across the availability zones. Yeah. We need a resiliency. So we need to replicate to some disaster recovery region, which is miles and miles away from from one region to another one. Yeah. And we can recover service on agreed schedule based on the contracts and SLAs commitments to the customers. Next thing, it's everything should be encrypted. We need to have web application firewalls, intrusion detection systems, internal firewalls, network policies, and all the pieces to ensure we have a full control of the stuff. We know everything what's happening in our environments here. We have access management, audit logging, so all the pieces should be controlled. Basically, how to ensure the deployments, how to ensure the control on the infrastructure. So we use the same standard tooling, let's say, for infrastructure as a code automation. So everything is in the code. Yeah, we keep everything in the GitLab, utilizing the Terraform to build the infrastructure, and we are utilizing the Argo to deploy everything to the Kubernetes. Yeah, so we basically approach the GitOps change control process to ensure that everything is in the right way and we know what's happening around. Next thing, it's an observability. Yeah? So for observability, we need to be sure that we have audit logs, we have application and infrastructure logs collected, all the metrics. We need alerting and all the pieces. So we are utilizing like Logly, Grafana, Datadog, and all these technologies helps us to progress and provide a service for end customers. Yeah. Okay, and now on the bump side, so it's becoming interesting. So when we started like last year with a multi-cloud agenda, we call it internally as a cloud agnostic platform. So cloud agnostic means what? We do not rely on any cloud vendor, and we can adopt every new cloud vendor pretty easily, just unifying the best solution, and also reducing the additional effort for developers to integrate with all the services around. So the first piece, which is a critical one, it's an identity provider. Selecting the right identity provider enables you to have a unified access management to all the systems like Okta or Azure AD. Those are ones of the big ones and has the best integrations with all the cloud vendors. And when I'm talking about cloud vendors, so we have AWS, we have Google Cloud Services, we have Azure, basically already, yeah, so the free ones. And in addition to that, we are building and doing integration right now with Oracle Cloud Services and with Ali Cloud. So basically, majority of the cloud vendors are available, let's say, yeah, or will be available in the next months for Mambu services. The interesting part is the single sign-on, so it's everybody knows what it's a must. Yeah, granular access management. So we need to ensure that we have granular access management to the Kubernetes. We need to ensure that granular access is available for SREs getting into the infrastructure side, so we can manage who is doing what. Yeah, SCIM is one of the automation things. So not all the identity providers or IDPs provides the SCIM for all the cloud vendors, and that's a critical piece. So you need to be sure before selecting the right one. And integration with HR system. Imagine how it's fine and great, basically, when the new developer is joining, new profile is assigned to the developer, and based on the profile on HR system, you get access rights to all the development systems, like starting from GitLab, going to the cloud part, yeah, to the Kubernetes and so on. So it can basically start development at the same time or the same day without needing to wait through the process to get access to all the systems, which is a painful stuff, especially in the big companies. It's a big issue. So, and compute and connectivity. So we defined basically a standard for us and agreed with, okay, so let's stick with the managed services, which are in blue, from the cloud vendor. Yeah, so we would like to utilize internal connectivity, starting from VPN, VPC peering, private links, and all the pieces around. Transit gateways or whatever, how we interconnect between the customers who are on the same cloud, the customers who are outside of the cloud, and so on. We are utilizing those minimal services or primitives like storage, yeah, as well, which is provided by the cloud vendor. And we utilize Kubernetes clusters. So these are the main things. And on the top of it, as you see, there is a network load balancing. So we are utilizing L4 load balancers to route the traffic to the ingress. And in the middle, you see which is a platform part, which is our blocks developed or engineered by Mambu. So we utilize the Kubernetes storage platform. So it's a virtualization for the storage, which allows us to basically replicate the storage, persistent storage between the different availability zones, replicate and do a snapshots to a disaster recovery region. So all the pieces which are required for us are kind of provided there. There are cloud Kubernetes storage platforms like OpenEBS, for example. There is Portworx, and there are some others who provides this service. So this one is critical for us to run the stateful services on top of it. Yeah. So when we get into the data services layer, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit later, on top of it, we have business services, so Mambu business services, and everything is controlled via the service mesh, in our case in Istio. There are alternatives, but we selected the Istio one. We are using that for encryption in transit, so all the traffic should be encrypted. And we have MTLS encryption, yeah, between the microservices and the databases and the caches, and so all the pieces around. And we are using Ingress, in our case, Nginx. Istio can be used as an ingress as well. So we are in debates in the journey. We'll see what will happen in the very end. Are we going to replace Nginx with Istio or some other vendor? We'll see. But for now, it is as it is. Yeah. Data platform. So we started with the minimal set of the data solutions, and we need to be sure what we have integration and compatibility with what we already are using on AWS, let's say. Yeah. So as we are using MySQL as a main storage for the data, we had to find something that will work on the Kubernetes, which is highly supported and available. And we selected Percona. which provides a Galera cluster and it scales. But there are also other alternatives like MariaDB provides the service and maybe something else. Yeah. So next thing, it's a Postgre. We're using Postgre for external services like Mambu not only builds their own services, but also buys some external services, adopt to our needs, and we are utilizing those. So external services comes with additional requirements and additional solutions. Yeah. Redis and also cluster at one. So we created that solution internally and deployed for the Mambu products to be used. And it works basically great. Other things like CockroachDB and Vitess. So this is where we are slowly progressing. We need something which is horizontally scalable for our data stack, and we are searching for the sharding basically solutions. Those has bottlenecks and some let's say issues for the consistency of the data, for the asset and all these requirements. And it's gonna be interesting journey for us to bring those services on top of the platform. But a little bit later, I'll share something else. Next things, it's a Kafka-like Elasticsearch or OpenSearch, which was enabled or provided right now by AWS. So it's also a very interesting project. RabbitMQ. So these are the things which we built and run on the platform itself. Yeah. For the secret management, we are going with Vault. We're using enterprise version of the Vault because we need some replication between the regions, again, between the clusters, and have a high availability service. So Vault is the right way for us to do. And also perfect integration with Kubernetes. We provide the unique secrets for every service. Everything is stored in the same place, isolated. Every customer gets a dedicated Vault instance, so everything is controlled in this case. Yeah, we manage and monitor the access, who is accessing, so all the audit parts are stored there. Temporary secrets, also very good stuff. Certificate management, we are going with Cert Manager, which provides us flexibility to integrate with other external or internal PKIs. So that's basically great stuff for us, and it works basically very well. All right, observability. This is the thing which we continuing to use, which is what we already have, and we are also migrating from one solution to another one. But we are sticking with a solution which should integrate all the pieces like logs, like metrics, like traces. Everything should be in the same place so that we can have a dashboards, we can get into the logs, we can find out traces, and which could show us the issues we have in the systems. So what developers can quickly resolve the problems, and we can restore the service as soon as possible. Yeah. That visibility is the critical piece for us running hundreds of systems to hundreds of customers. So till now we are using like Loggly, we are using Grafana, the same what we have right now on the screen. We are using Datadog, yeah, but probably we would like to stick with one. And basically, why we need multiple systems if we can reduce the complexity and have better integration, sticking with one. Yeah, again, it's a long journey for us to do some arrangement, but we have some requirements like for data locality again, and keeping logs in some specific regions. So we cannot have some external services which are not available, for example, in some specific regions where we would like to keep our services running. So in that case, our internal solution works really well. And as we have an experts in that area, we are working with the developers and development teams. We suggest how to utilize observability, how to integrate. So this also brings a big improvement for our internal kitchen, let's say. Build and deploy, the same tools already explained. GitLab, we store everything in the GitLab. One source of truth, let's say. Images are there, releases are automated there via pipelines. So everything goes through the GitOps, as already mentioned. So these are the critical piece of the system. Terraform, everything is automated via Terraform. Guys created full stack of the solution, integrated all the models, so everything works, let's say, fluently, and we can bring the new environments pretty quickly. And Argo CD, it's a center of deployments, so everything goes through Argo, and these are the free amigos which we are using to deploy the infrastructure and the services and have a control on it. Yeah. All right, so the last one, what we got during this period when going to the multi-cloud and how it looks like from our internal, let's say, side. Yeah. So first thing, it's we created a let's say Lego, like a block-based platform, and for us it's a really great what we can have an easy integration, so we can mix those blocks, check what's better suiting for us. We have a flexibility which we never had before with a single cloud and the managed services. We just utilized those services in the way which those are provided by the cloud vendor, and it's great till you're using one cloud vendor. Yeah. Delivery of customer requirements. This is a critical piece. So using the managed services, sometimes it's difficult to implement some specific solutions. In our case, like a mutual TLS for customer certificate or identity validation. Yeah. Like ELBs, not all cloud vendors provide the same functionality. So some ELBs maybe will work, some not. You need to bring a complex solution around to implement some simple feature. Yeah. For us, with multiple blocks, which we can change, interchange, and create an integrations, that is an easy task. And deliver solutions are on our platform, which are not available on the public cloud. This is the thing for horizontally scalable databases, like Vitesse or Cockroach, which is shown in a few slides ago. So these are the things. We can easily take the products from the market and integrate on our platform. And basically we can run it. Yeah, so that's a great stuff because we have a muscle already. We have internal engineering teams who understands the stuff, who have a skill set to run and support the services internally. Yeah. And another piece is what we have, a unified and standardized development platform. So developers can do development on, let's say, Azure, or they can do on other cloud vendor while providing production services on all the clouds. Yeah, so we can select the cloud vendor based on the prices, which the best price is for our developers. Development workloads, we are utilizing that. And infrastructure releases also. We have a single pipeline going to different clouds and utilizing the same Terraform solution, let's say, to manage infrastructure. We can provide a unified way of deploying changes. And the last one, I would say, probably this is the most critical one and most interesting one. We had to extend the teams. We had to create the dedicated teams to run and support the products, like the data team to support data stack, yeah, and core team like to support the platform, to do integrations, networking, all the pieces, Kubernetes management. So we are gaining the skill sets and people kind of becoming a real experts in those areas. And what we do, we contribute to development teams and provide best solutions and best, let's say, proposals, architecture, or simply helping them to have a best integration application to the technology which runs and supports it. Yeah, so DBAs, Kafkas, let's say, and Kubernetes, for example, and so on. So this is the main thing I see what's happening in Mambu right now, and this brings a really, really good feedback. Okay, guys, before finishing and before question session, we have a quiz. So I just want to share with you what going to the Mambu booth and selecting about us. There is a small quiz which you can get into, and you can answer a few questions which are from this presentation, and win few tickets with the 500 layers. We'll see. Let's try it and challenge yourself, guys. So thank you. And now it's time for questions.
Thank you, Martynas. I enjoyed the way you presented it. You know, the way you're building this product. And by the way, there is a bit of a local pride here, you know, among us, because we're part of this community that's building a great product. So thumbs up, well done. Now, the first question, since you're speaking of prizes, so how many clouds were you mentioning that you're integrating right now?
Okay,
It
so
was just one, I think.
we already have 3. So AWS.
Okay, thank you.
GCP.
It's enough. It's enough. Next question, because I'm looking right now in the. Okay, what was the first one? We're completing the quiz now.
Cheating, Martynas. Florin is
Hey,
cheating.
come on!
I want
guys.
to get the voucher.
Still a few questions are missing, and I believe those will be the critical ones. So
okay. Good. So I promise I'll take the quiz and try to win the prize. So I think, congrats from the entire team and that you're building this very nice product, and congrats for your presentation. I'm afraid we don't have too much time for other questions. We need to have a short break. But we'll keep those questions for the, I don't know, next time when we hope you will join Codecamp.